Ambassador Kim Jina walked through the marble corridors of the Galactic Council building for what felt like the 1000th time. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her dark suit made her look professional but not threatening. That was important. Everything humans did had to look non-threatening. She paused at the large window overlooking the capital city of Nexus Prime. Alien ships flew between towering spires that reached into the purple sky. It had been 30 years since humans first arrived here, 30 years since they joined the galactic community, 30 years of being the galaxy's peacemakers. Her assistant, Captain Park Hyun, approached with a data pad. His uniform was clean and pressed, but like all human military uniforms in council space, it carried no weapons. Another incident report, Ambassador. The Helix Coalition destroyed one of our cargo ships near the Vega system. Gina took the pad, without looking up from the window. Casualties. 17 dead. All civilians. The ship was carrying medical supplies to the refugee camps on Kepler Station. She finally turned to face him. Park was young for a captain, maybe 35, with the kind of serious expression that came from seeing too much death. What's their excuse this time? They claim the ship ignored warnings to change course. Say it was heading toward restricted space. Gina almost laughed. It was always the same. The Coalition would attack human ships, then claim self-defense. The Council would investigate, find the Coalition at fault, and issue a formal reprimand. The Coalition would pay a small fine. Then it would happen again. Schedule a meeting with Speaker Thexmore, she said. We'll handle this through proper channels. Park's jaw tightened. Ambassador, with respect, proper channels aren't working. This is the 15th attack this year. They're testing us, and we'll continue to show them that violence isn't the answer. She handed the pad back to him. Prepare a humanitarian aid package for the families of the crew. Make sure the media knows we're helping, not retaliating. Park nodded but didn't look happy. Yes, ma'am. 2 hours later, Gina sat across from Speaker Thexmore in his private office. The coalition leader was 7 feet tall with green scales and yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. His species, the Zilani, had evolved from predators, and it showed. Another unfortunate accident, Thexmore said, not bothering to sound sorry. Perhaps humans should avoid dangerous areas of space. The ship was in neutral territory following approved trade routes. According to human navigation data, my pilot saw a vessel behaving suspiciously near our border. He leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. You must understand, Ambassador, that we cannot allow potential threats near our worlds. Gina kept her voice calm. Medical supplies are hardly a threat. How do we know what was really in those containers? Your people are creative with cargo manifest. She felt anger building but pushed it down. Getting angry was exactly what he wanted. Would you accept a joint investigation? Coalition and human inspectors working together? Thexmore's mouth split into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. How generous but unnecessary. Our own investigation is sufficient. The families of 17 people deserve justice. They have justice. Their loved ones died because they flew into dangerous space. The galaxy is not a safe place for those too weak to defend themselves. After the meeting, Gina walked back to the human embassy with Park beside her. Neither spoke until they were in her secure office, protected from listening devices. He's not even trying to hide it anymore, Park said. They see us as easy targets. That's exactly what we want them to think. Park looked at her sharply. Ma'am? Gina sat behind her desk and activated her secure terminal. Captain, how long have you been in diplomatic service? 5 years, Ambassador. Then you've seen how this works. We take the hits, we offer aid, we push for peaceful solutions. The other species think we're weak. They think we can't fight back. Can't we? She looked at him for a long moment. What do you think happened to all those human colonies that requested military protection? The ones that said they needed warships and soldiers? We told them to rely on local defense forces and council peacekeepers. And where do you think all those human research stations are? The ones studying star formations and nebula patterns, in remote sectors? Park's eyes widened slightly. assumed they were actually research stations. Captain, in your military training, did they ever mention something called strategic patience? Yes, ma'am. The practice of appearing weak while building strength, but that was theoretical. Gina turned her terminal so he could see the screen. It showed a star map with thousands of tiny markers spread across known space. Every green dot is a human presence. Research stations, trade posts, small colonies, diplomatic missions. Notice anything? Park studied the map. They're everywhere. Every major trade route, every strategic system, He stopped. These aren't random positions. No, they're not. She turned the screen back. We've been building this network for 30 years, Captain. While everyone thinks we're harmless peacekeepers, we've been positioning assets across the galaxy. The Coalition thinks they're testing our resolve. They have no idea what they're actually testing. But the casualties, Ambassador. Good people are dying while we play this waiting game. Gina's expression softened. I know. Every death weighs on me. But the alternative is worse. If we reveal our true capabilities too early, before we're ready, the galaxy will unite against us. Right now, they underestimate us. That's our greatest advantage. How long do we wait? Until they cross a line we can't ignore. Until they force our hand. She looked back at the window, where alien ships continued their peaceful flights between the towers. And Captain, when that day comes, the galaxy is going to learn what humans are really capable of. The attacks came more frequently now. What started as accidents had become a pattern that even the most naive council members couldn't ignore. Dr. Choi Soo-jin noticed the change during her morning briefing at Research Station Kepler 442. The blind young scientist pulled her long black hair into a ponytail as she reviewed the overnight reports. Another cargo ship hit near the outer rim. Her assistant, Dr. Lee Min-hyuk, said quietly. 15 dead this time. The Coalition says it was another navigation error. Soo-jin looked up from her stellar formation data. That's the third one this month. They're getting bolder. Maybe we should request a military escort for supply runs, Min-hyuk suggested. He was fresh out of the academy, still believing that reasonable solutions existed for every problem. You know the policy. We maintain our civilian status, no military presence at research facilities. Soo-jin turned back to her screens, but her mind wasn't on the star charts anymore. Something felt wrong. The Coalition ships had been scanning their station more frequently, always claiming they were checking for security threats. 3 days later, the Coalition fleet arrived. General Shin Do-young was in a heated meeting with Ambassador Kim when the emergency alert came through. His weathered face showed the strain of too many sleepless nights as he read the incoming transmission. They destroyed Kepler Station, he said, his voice barely controlled. Complete annihilation. 180 researchers dead, including Dr. Choi's entire team. Kim's hands gripped the edge of her desk. Their reason? They claim the station was conducting military research. Say they found evidence of weapons development. Shin's voice grew harder. It was a civilian science station studying star formation. The most dangerous thing they had was a coffee machine. The council will investigate. The council will do nothing. Shin stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. They'll issue another statement, maybe a fine. Meanwhile, good people are dying because we won't defend ourselves. Kim remained seated, though her knuckles were white. We cannot abandon our principles, General. The moment we respond with violence, we become what they are. What we become is alive. Shin leaned across her desk. I have ships, Ambassador. Good ships with good crews. Let me protect our people. Defensive positions. Only. That's final. 2 weeks later, Speaker Thexmore addressed the full Galactic Council. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The Coalition leader's scaled face showed no emotion as he spoke into the central microphone. The destruction of the human research station was regrettable but necessary, he announced. Our intelligence indicated weapons research in violation of civilian station protocols. We acted to protect Coalition space from potential threats. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Kim sat in the human section, her face composed but her eyes burning. She had seen the real data from Kepler Station. There had been no weapons research, only Dr. Choi's work on stellar evolution patterns, Thexmore continued. However, this incident highlights a larger issue. Humanity has positioned itself as the galaxy's conscience, yet they lack the strength to back their moral positions. They offer aid, mediation, and peaceful solutions, but when true leadership is required, they retreat to diplomatic protocols. Several coalition allies made sounds of agreement. Kim noticed other species watching her reaction carefully. "I do not mean to insult our human colleagues," Thexmore said, his tone suggesting the opposite. "They serve a valuable purpose as the galaxy's caretakers, but we must be realistic about their role. They are useful for cleaning up after conflicts, not for preventing them. They are healers, not leaders." The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species objected to the harsh words, but others seemed to agree. Kim stood slowly and walked to the central speaking platform. "The coalition speaker makes valid points," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Humanity has indeed chosen the path of healing over hurting, diplomacy over destruction. We have consistently sought peaceful solutions even when violence might have been easier." She paused, looking directly at Thexmore. "But the speaker misunderstands the nature of choice. We choose peace not because we lack alternatives, but because we believe it is right. The death of our researchers at Kepler Station will not change that belief." Thexmore's yellow eyes glittered with something like amusement. "And what will humanity do about these deaths? File another protest? Request another investigation? We will mourn our dead and continue our mission of peace. As I said, healers, not leaders." After the session, Kim returned to her office to find Captain Park waiting with another stack of reports. His young face looked older than it had a month ago. "The Coalition isn't the only one watching, Ambassador," he said. 3 other species have begun testing our trade routes. The Crimson Syndicate hit 2 of our medical transports yesterday. The Void Collective is demanding tribute for passage through what they call their space." Kim sat heavily in her chair. "They smell weakness. Or they see an opportunity. Word is spreading that humans won't fight back no matter what happens to them." Park placed the reports on her desk. "Ma'am, I've been getting requests from our outer colonies. They want to know when help is coming." "What kind of help?" "Military help, real protection. Some are talking about abandoning their settlements." Kim activated her secure terminal and pulled up the strategic map she had shown Park weeks earlier. The green dots representing human positions now seemed less like a network and more like targets. "Send a message to Admiral Wan," she said quietly. "Tell him the timeline may need to be accelerated." "Yes, ma'am, how accelerated?" She looked at the casualty reports on her desk. Dr. Choi's smiling face looked back from a personnel file. "A young woman who had dedicated her life to understanding the universe, killed because the Coalition wanted to test human resolve." "Tell him we're running out of time to maintain the illusion." Dr. Yu Minji arrived at the Hanseong Colony Medical Center before sunrise, just as she had every day for the past 3 years. The pediatric wing was her responsibility, housing over 200 children from across the galaxy. Some were refugees from border conflicts. Others were patients with rare diseases that only human medical technology could treat. She stopped by the nursery first, checking on the newest arrivals. Baby Kexra, a small blue-skinned child from the Outer Rim, had finally stabilized after weeks of treatment. His parents had traveled halfway across the galaxy when they heard that human doctors could save him. "Good morning, little one," she whispered, adjusting his blankets. The baby's large black eyes followed her movements. In a few more weeks, he would be strong enough to go home. Her assistant, Nurse Kim Soo-hyun, joined her for morning rounds. "The agricultural reports look good," Soo-hyun said, scrolling through her tablet. "The Harvest Festival is planned for next week. The children are excited. Hansong Colony was humanity's proudest achievement. Home to 2.1 million civilians, it served as both a thriving agricultural world and a sanctuary for those fleeing violence. The colony's medical facilities were renowned throughout the galaxy, especially the Children's Center that Minji directed. "Dr. Yu," called out a young voice. 7-year-old Park Jiwoo ran up to them, his leg braces clicking against the floor. He had arrived 6 months ago after a bombing on his home world left him unable to walk. The human prosthetics team had given him a chance at a normal life. "How are you feeling today, Jiwoo?" Minji knelt down to his level. "Much better. Watch. This." The boy took several careful steps without holding on to anything. His face beamed with pride. "That's wonderful. Soon you'll be running with the other children." The morning passed peacefully. Minji treated patients, reviewed medical charts, and planned surgeries for the coming week. At 11:47 local time, her communicator buzzed with an incoming transmission. "All medical personnel, this is Colony Command. We have unidentified ships approaching the system. This is not a drill. Begin emergency protocols immediately." Minji's blood went cold. She had trained for this moment but hoped it would never come. "Soo-Yun, activate lockdown procedures. Get all mobile patients to the emergency shelters. What about the children who can't be moved? We stay with them." The first coalition ships appeared in orbit 20 minutes later. Massive warships that blotted out the morning sun. Dr. Minji watched from the medical center's main window as more vessels materialized from hyperspace. Too many to count. Then the broadcasts began. Speaker Thexmore's voice echoed across every communication channel. "On the planet. Citizens of Hanseong Colony, you are harboring enemies of the Coalition. Surrender all military assets immediately, or face the consequences." Colony Administrator Lee Jae-won responded from the command center. "This is a civilian colony. We have no military assets. We demand safe passage for our non-combatant population under Galactic Convention Article 7. Thexmore's laugh was like breaking glass. "Convention protections apply only to those strong enough to enforce them. You have 30 minutes to comply." Minji gathered her staff in the pediatric ward. 15 doctors and nurses, all of them looking to her for answers she didn't have. Through the windows, they could see panicked civilians running through the streets trying to reach emergency shelters. "We're not leaving the children," she announced. "Anyone who wants to evacuate has my permission, but I'm staying." No one moved toward the door. The attack began exactly 30 minutes later. The Coalition didn't target military installations because there weren't any to target. Instead, they focused on civilian infrastructure, schools, hospitals, refugee centers. The children's medical facility. Minji was helping young patients into emergency pods when the first missile struck the building's east wing. The explosion threw her against the wall and she felt something warm running down her face. Blood. "Dr. Yu." Nurse Kim was pulling her to her feet. "The emergency power is out. We need to evacuate now." But there was nowhere to go. Through the smoke and flames, Minji could see Coalition dropships landing in the colony's central plaza. Soldiers were pouring out, weapons ready. She stumbled back to the nursery where baby Kexra and 2 other infants lay in their medical pods. The backup power had failed, and their life support systems were shutting down. "I won't leave them," she told Kim. "Get the others out if you can." The building shook again as another explosion rocked the structure. Ceiling tiles rained down around them. Minji gathered the 3 babies in her arms, using her own body to shield them from the falling debris. Speaker Thexmore's voice continued broadcasting throughout the attack. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy. This is what happens to those who trust in human protection. Where are your defenders now? Where are your mighty peacekeepers?" The Coalition forces were systematic in their destruction. They targeted every hospital, every school, every shelter. When human rescue ships finally arrived 3 hours later, they found a world transformed into a cemetery. Captain Park Hyun led the first rescue team into the medical center. He found Dr. Yu in the nursery, her body curved protectively around. 3 small forms. She had died shielding the babies, but they had died too when their life support failed. Throughout the colony, the story was the same. Over 900,000 civilians dead, 25,000 children. Entire families wiped out while Coalition forces broadcast their contempt for human weakness. The final transmission from Hanseong Colony came from Administrator Lee, his voice barely a whisper over damaged communication equipment. "This is Hanseong Colony to Earth Command. Colony is lost. Repeat, Colony is lost. They killed everyone. The children. They killed all the children. Ambassador Kim received the casualty reports in her office on Nexus Prime. She read each page carefully, memorizing names and faces. Dr. Yu Minji, age 31, killed while protecting infant patients. Administrator Lee Jae-won, age 45, died at his post coordinating evacuations. She activated her secure communicator and sent a single message to Earth. Diplomatic protocol is suspended. Transfer all authority to military command. For the first time in 30 years, humanity went silent. Admiral Won Jae-ho stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Earth's moon. The facility didn't exist on any official records. As far as the galaxy knew, it was just another mining operation, one of dozens that dotted Luna's surface. The real purpose of Base Shadowfall had been hidden for 30 years. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at stations that monitored every corner of known space. These weren't the diplomatic corps that the galaxy had grown accustomed to seeing. These were humanity's true military leaders, the ones who had been preparing for this day since first contact. Admiral, Colonel An Sulgi approached with a data pad. Her uniform bore no insignia that the coalition would recognize, but every person in this room knew her reputation. She had spent 15 years commanding what the galaxy believed were research expeditions in remote sectors. Ambassador Kim's final authorization came through 10 minutes ago. All assets are green for Operation Daybreak. One took the pad and reviewed the casualty reports from Hansong Colony one more time. Nearly 1 million civilians dead, children murdered in their hospital beds. The images burned into his memory just as they were meant to. "How long until we're ready?" he asked. "All units report ready status, sir. We can begin in 1 hour." One looked at the massive display screen that dominated the command center. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of tiny lights scattered across its surface like stars. Each light represented a human asset that the rest of the galaxy had dismissed as harmless. "Colonel, 30 years ago when we first made contact with the galactic community, what was our primary directive? Learn everything about potential enemies while revealing nothing about ourselves," An replied without hesitation. "And what did we learn? That most species fight the last war, not the next one. They build fleets designed to fight enemies like themselves. They never considered what humanity might become." One nodded. The coalition thought in terms of massive battleships and overwhelming firepower. They had built their entire military around the concept of dominating space through superior numbers and larger weapons. It was exactly what humanity had hoped they would do. "Begin Operation Daybreak," he ordered. Across the galaxy, the awakening began. Lieutenant Commander Bae Hanul received the activation codes aboard what appeared to be a simple cargo vessel transporting medical supplies to refugee camps. The ship's hull looked worn and patched, exactly like hundreds of other human merchant ships that plied the trade routes. "This is Merchant Vessel Healing Hand requesting departure clearance," she transmitted to the Coalition space station that monitored traffic in the Vega system. "Clearance granted, human vessel. Maintain standard shipping lanes." As soon as her ship cleared the station's sensor range, Bae activated the hidden systems. The cargo pods detached to reveal advanced weapon arrays. The worn hull plating shifted aside, exposing military-grade armor and propulsion systems. Within minutes, the harmless merchant ship had transformed into a heavy cruiser that outclassed anything in the Coalition fleet. "This is Strike Commander. Bae to all units. Phoenix Protocol is active. Begin target acquisition." Similar transformations were happening throughout Coalition space. The research station at Kepler 442, rebuilt after the Coalition destroyed the original civilian facility, revealed itself to be a massive military installation. Dr. Park Jin-woo, who had been studying stellar phenomena for 5 years, was actually Captain Park, commanding a garrison of 3,000 soldiers. The Coalition's primary fleet assembly at Vega Prime detected the human ships too late. Admiral Thekvar, Speaker Thexmore's military commander, watched in confusion as his sensors registered weapon signatures unlike anything in the Coalition database. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves immediately," he transmitted. The response came from Commander Bae. This is the human defense fleet. You are ordered to surrender unconditionally. Thekvar's laugh echoed across the communication channel. One human ship against our entire battle group? Your species truly has lost its mind. Not one ship, Admiral. Look again. The Coalition sensors suddenly registered dozens of human vessels, materializing throughout the system. Ships that had been hiding using technology the Coalition didn't know existed. Ships that had been positioning themselves for weeks while disguised as harmless civilian traffic. The battle lasted 14 minutes. Coalition warships, designed to fight enemies who thought like they did, found themselves facing tactics they couldn't comprehend. Human vessels moved in perfect coordination, their weapons striking with precision that seemed impossible. They targeted specific systems rather than trying to destroy entire ships, disabling Coalition vessels without killing their crews when possible. But when Coalition ships continued to fight, the human response was swift and final. Speaker Thexmore received the first reports in his private chambers on the Coalition homeworld. His aide, a nervous young Zelani named Vexka, brought him the initial casualty assessments. Sir, we've lost contact with the entire Vega Prime fleet. Early reports suggest complete destruction. Impossible. The humans don't have that kind of military capability. Sir, we're receiving similar reports from 17 other systems. Human forces are attacking Coalition installations throughout our territory. Thexmore activated his personal communicator, trying to reach Admiral Thekvar. Only static answered. He tried the backup command center. More static. Get me a direct line to the human embassy, he ordered. Sir, the embassy has been closed. All human diplomatic personnel have been evacuated. For the first time in his life, Thexmore felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. The species he had spent years mocking as weak and harmless had revealed themselves to be something entirely different. Open a general transmission to all human forces, he said, his voice no longer carrying its usual arrogance. Tell them the Coalition wishes to discuss terms. The response came 12 hours later, after every Coalition military installation in 40 star systems had been eliminated with surgical precision. It wasn't from Ambassador Kim or any other diplomat. It was from Admiral Wan, and it consisted of a single word: no. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Ambassador Kim Jina walked through the same marble corridors she had traveled for 30 years, but everything felt different now. The alien diplomats who used to ignore her or speak down to her now stepped aside when she approached. Some wouldn't even meet her eyes. Behind her walked Admiral Wan Jeho, his military uniform a stark contrast to the diplomatic robes worn by most council members. His presence sent a clear message. Humanity was no longer interested in being the galaxy's pet peacekeepers. The emergency session had been called by the remaining Coalition worlds, though there weren't many left. In 6 days, the Helix Coalition had ceased to exist as a military power. Their fleets were destroyed, their leaders dead or captured, their worlds under human occupation. Kim took her seat at the human delegation table, the same chair she had occupied for decades while pleading for peace and offering aid to those who mocked her. Now the chamber buzzed with nervous whispers as representatives tried to understand how the galaxy's weakest species had become its strongest overnight. Council Speaker Mordain, an elderly blue-skinned Altarian, called the session to order with a trembling voice. The Council recognizes the human delegation. Ambassador Kim, the galaxy demands answers. How did your species hide such military capability? Kim stood slowly, her movements calm and controlled. We didn't hide anything, Speaker. We simply chose not to use it. That's impossible. Our intelligence services monitor all species' military capabilities. You had no significant fleet, no advanced weapons technology. Your intelligence services saw what we wanted them to see. Kim activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy-wide network of human positions. Every trade ship, research station, and diplomatic mission has been part of a single coordinated defense system. While you saw scattered civilian operations, we built the most advanced military network in known space. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representative Zextar of the Void Collective stood up, his multiple arms waving in agitation. This is a betrayal of everything the Council stands for. You deceived us all. Admiral Wan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. We deceived no one. We offered peace, diplomacy, and aid for 30 years. You chose to test our resolve with violence. The Coalition chose to massacre civilians. The consequences of those choices are yours to bear. But the destruction, entire fleets eliminated in hours, planets occupied without warning. Zextar's voice cracked with fear. This isn't how civilized species conduct warfare. Civilized species don't murder children in hospitals, Kim replied. Civilized species don't broadcast the slaughter of innocents as entertainment. We gave you 30 years to prove that peaceful coexistence was possible. You chose otherwise. Former Coalition Representative Vexka, now speaking for what remained of her people, approached the speaking platform with obvious reluctance. Ambassador Kim, my people wish to discuss terms of surrender. We acknowledge our mistakes and request mercy. Kim's expression didn't change. Your people will receive the same mercy you showed the children of Hanseong Colony. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. However, Kim continued, we are not you. Coalition worlds will be placed under human administration until such time as they prove capable of peaceful governance. Your people will live, but your government is ended. Council Speaker Mordain tried to regain control of the session. The Council cannot accept this unilateral action. The occupation of sovereign worlds violates every treaty and agreement we've established. Admiral Wan pulled up another display, this one showing the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. Speaker, you seem to misunderstand the current situation. The Council can accept our actions, or the Council can join the Coalition in history. The choice is yours. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Representatives who had spent years dismissing humanity now found themselves staring at tactical displays that showed human ships positioned near every major world in the galaxy. What do you want from us? Mordain asked finally. Kim deactivated the displays and walked to the center of the chamber, to the same podium where she had once begged for investigations into human deaths, while alien representatives laughed. I want what we've always wanted, she said. Peace. Real peace, not the illusion of peace maintained by the suffering of the weak. For 30 years, this council has allowed aggressive species to prey on peaceful ones. You ignored attacks on civilian targets, dismissed massacres as internal affairs, and treated the murder of innocents as acceptable losses in political games. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of worlds. That era is over. There will be peace in this galaxy enforced by those who understand its true value. Species that choose cooperation will prosper. Those that choose aggression will be eliminated. Representative Kalash of the Crimson Syndicate, one of the groups that had begun testing human trade routes after the Coalition's attacks, spoke up nervously. And who decides what constitutes aggression? Admiral Wan answered without hesitation. We do. The weight of those two words settled over the chamber like a shroud. For 30 years, humanity had asked for permission, pleaded for justice, and offered compromise. Now they were stating facts. Kim returned to her seat but remained standing. The Galactic Council will continue to exist, but its role will change. You will no longer debate whether civilian massacres violate galactic law. You will no longer ignore attacks on peaceful species. You will govern according to principles of actual justice, or you will be replaced by those who will. And if we refuse? Zextar asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer. Kim's smile was not pleasant. The Coalition refused. How did that work out for them? Within an hour, the Council had unanimously approved the new structure. Humanity would oversee galactic security through the newly formed Human Defense Authority. All aggressive actions between species would be subject to immediate human intervention. The age of testing humanity's resolve was officially over. As Kim left the chambers, she passed the memorial wall where the names of diplomatic casualties were recorded. She stopped at the newest entries: Dr. Yu Minji, Administrator Li Jihwan, and hundreds of others from Hansong Colony. "It's finished," she whispered to their memory. "No one else will die because we chose to be merciful." The galaxy had finally learned the most dangerous truth about humanity. They were not peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they chose to be. And when that choice was no longer viable, their response was swift, decisive, and final. Peace, it turned out, was much easier to maintain when enforced by those who truly understood its cost.